question in the Telegraph business section this morning. Santander UK, is my bank account safe? Well, why the worry? Well, yesterday, 16 Spanish banks had their credit ratings downgraded. The ratings agency Moody's said it was concerned about the recession in Spain. Note, in one bankrupt Spanish town, Moya, near Barcelona, the local council can only afford to switch on the electricity for 12 hours a day. OK, you may be thinking, that's in Spain, Viva España, but we're in London. Why are you talking about it, Vanessa? Well, here's the answer. The UK arm of Spanish-owned bank Santander has also been downgraded. You'll remember Santander was formerly Abbey National Building Society, eventually trading under the name Abbey. You were asked to get the Abbey habit, and you might well still have an account with them. So many questions this morning. Is it okay to keep your cash in Santander UK? If Santander UK has its credit rating downgraded, could we see a Northern Rock scenario? Will savers be queuing outside this morning with Primus stoves and sleeping bags, demanding their life savings? And if they're not, should they be? And what about the other so-called British banks? Are they actually British? Are they going to be shaken, if not stirred, by the Eurozone crisis? In the words of Dad's Army's Corporal Jones, don't panic, don't panic. But should we or shouldn't we be in a mild state of possible pre-panic this morning? Does anyone understand the Eurozone debacle? And if you do, what is the impact likely to be on London and on all of us? 0207 224 2000. Amateur economists and theorists, welcome to call, please, with your views. The Eurozone crisis, how is it going to impact us? Is it already? And if you have an account at Santander UK, how do you feel about that this morning? 0207 224 2000.
This is Vanessa Feltz. Weekday mornings from 9.
On BBC London 94.9.
Yourself a penny. Yes, it's really you. Yes, you really made. All your dreams come true. No, stop pretending.
There's an happy ending, and it all begins where it begins with happy national and those happy endings.
Remember Lionel Bart and the children and Abbey endings? Well, you thought you were investing your money in the Abbey National Building Society. Before you knew it, it became Abbey, and the next thing, it had been bought by the Spanish, and it was Santander UK. Now, I'm not trying to panic anybody this morning. All I want to do is find out what it means. That's all, very simply. And there's a question in the Financial Times, there's a question in the Telegraph, there's a question on lots of people's lips. If you watched the news last night, you might have thought, oh my goodness, my money's in there. What I've got left of it, it's all there in Santander UK. What does this mean? Here's the newspaper headline. Santander, is my bank account safe? And not just Santander UK. What about the other banks that we think are familiar British names and familiar, as Al Murray, the pub landlord, would say, beautiful British banks? Are they really British or not? Who owns them and how worried should we be about this? You know the number 0207 224 2000. But first of all, let me say good morning, lovely listener, and welcome to BBC London 94.9. Many thanks to Paul and Gabby for a really spiffing breakfast show this morning. I'm Vanessa Feltz. I'll be here with you every weekday morning between 9 and 12, particularly provided the conversation with Alain de Botton, the philosopher, at 11 o'clock, which is going to be based on his book called Thinking More About Sex. Doesn't get too fruity. If it does, I'll be out my ear. I've already been told that, so I have to mind my P's and Q's, but I hope I keep my job, and I'll be here with you between 9 and 12 every weekday morning on BBC London 94.9. So first of all, on the subject of Santander UK and the impact of the Eurozone crisis upon London and upon us, let's kick off with Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth manager. Jonathan, morning to you.
Good morning, Vanessa.
OK, we don't want to panic anybody. We don't want to do anything that's irresponsible or unnecessary. All I want to do is get a straight answer to how worrying is this?
In the ultra short term, not particularly worrying. The UK subsidiary of Santander in Spain has also been downgraded, as you say. Mm-hmm. However, the couple of points to note is, first of all, we shouldn't really believe anything that the ratings agencies say, because these are the guys who said that AIG and Bank of Ireland were AAA rated. Right. So actually, they play a game with us. Secondly, if we are accepting what they say, which basically I don't, you should note that the UK subsidiary is actually rated slightly higher than the Spanish parent. And the reason behind that is because ultimately depositors' funds up to £85,000 per single account or £175,000 per joint account are guaranteed by the UK taxpayer, and basically the ratings agency thinks that the UK taxpayers get more money than the Spanish taxpayer, so that's why Santander UK is rated slightly higher.
On the other hand, it may be that you've just sold your house, it may be that you've inherited some money, it may be that you've been saving up your entire life, fiver after fiver after fiver, and you have more than £85,000 in that bank. It may be you've got 100,000 or 150 or 200,000 in that bank. Should you be worried then?
In which case you would be imprudent not to limit your savings in any one financial institution to 85 for a single or 170,000 for a joint. In other words, if you do have, say, £500,000 and you're a couple, split it between 3 banks. Don't be silly. Just go ahead and do it as quickly as possible.
I mean, how important is it now to worry and to think about that kind of thing? Because there was a time, was it at the end of 2007, where people suddenly started for the first time ever to talk about how much or how little money was guaranteed in a savings account in a bank. And then that conversation, as so many do, sort of blew over. People sort of stopped thinking about it or talking about it. Should they still be thinking about it and talking about it?
You need to see the big picture. The big picture is that for 30 or 40 years, we've had rising debt. Until it became a crescendo in the 2000s. We are now in an era of deleveraging, which is falling debt, and in an era which is 20 plus years of deleveraging, you're going to find financial assets fall, property assets fall, and everything get tighter. So the reason why they're not talking about it since a few years ago is because after the initial stage of the crash in 2008, certain politicians said they saved the world. What they actually did was slashed interest rates and borrowed even more money and compounded the problem. So the next time we have a crash, which I think is soon upon us, it's going to be at least as big as 2008, because then, come on, companies were going bust. Now countries are going bust. People need to get real.
Okay, so let's take it slowly in words of one syllable. This Eurozone crisis, I mean, it sounds as if it's over there, not here. We're not in, we don't have euros, we still got pounds. We think it's something happening in Greece, in Spain, it's happened in Iceland. We think it's over there. What kind of impact is it having on us? Because when we hear Santander UK has its credit rating dropped, even if you say, yeah, but can we really trust the ratings agencies, it does rattle our cages a little bit. It makes us think, my God, that's right here, that's on our high streets, that's with our money in it. Oh my goodness.
We cannot trust any of the financial institutions. They're all technically insolvent, all of them, apart from maybe the very smallest building societies who had relatively prudent lending. They all had reckless lending. They've all got balance sheets which are not dissimilar to RBS in 2007. They're going to take vast losses on Greece, Spain, Portugal, maybe even Italy, defaulting on the hundreds, thousands of billions of pounds of loans. And because the EU and the UK are in recession, and as you know, I believe we're actually in an economic depression. China is in recession. America is going to go back into recession. Practically the whole planet is in economic recession. This is not scaremongering. These are facts. Thus, in this kind of situation, we have to expect that incomes are not going to rise, asset prices are going to fall, and the only reason why the banks have been held together is because the politicians around the world have been allowing the banks not to show their balance sheets correctly. In other words, for example, in Spain, which is what we're talking about today, property prices in the official statistics have gone down 20%. Well, many of your listeners may have properties over there, and they will know that that's ridiculous. Prices of property in Spain have gone down 60 or 70%.
Okay, so what's the gap then between what we're being told and what the reality is? Why are we not simply being told property prices in Spain have gone down 60%?
Because the politicians are in collusion with the bankers, pretending that there isn't a problem. The politicians win, the bankers win, the people lose.
Okay, question. For some people, a depression is an opportunity. For some people, if they've got some money, is this the time, if you've got a few quid, to take it out of Santander UK or indeed any other bank that masquerades as being British and isn't really, or even any bank that is bona fide British, rush over to Spain and snap up some bargain properties? Is this the moment to profit by their misery or from their misery?
There are properties being sold at 35 pence in the pound right now. I think you'll find, however, that Spain, Greece, Portugal will leave the euro. They'll go back to their previous currencies. Those currencies will massively devalue. You'll actually be buying at 10 or 20 pence in the pound.
Goodness gracious, Jonathan Davis, you never fail to amaze, astound and utterly terrify. Thank you very much indeed. That's Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth manager.